Number 13. Retconning is the best thing since bell-bottom jeans.
I've always liked the name Violet.
On a surface level, I'm sure that we all enjoyed this scene to some extent. With the first viewing, we may have even considered it to be nice and cute.
Impressive. Very nice.
This scene seems to attempt to both deepen the relationships of Vander and Silco, while also revealing their close friendship with Vi and Jinx's mother. What we see here is a trio, a group of friends that likely did quite a bit to unify the Undercity and make it a better place for the people living there. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with a little backstory for some of our favorite and most beloved characters, right? Right?
Ha! Wrong! Shut up!
Ah, well, let's get into it. Okay, so when we meet Vander in Season 1, it is a scene of brutality. He is quite literally beating an enforcer to death on a bridge of corpses while two children look on in horror. This is an expression of violence, anger, and war. It is only when he emerges from the shadows and sees both Vi and Jinx lose their parents does Vander realize the error of his ways and chooses peace over war. Vander gives up on his violence for the sake of these two children. He gives up who he once was. So having a flashback to a young Vander chilling out with Silco and the mom in this happy and romanticized time seems pretty weak. It contrasts with everything that we knew about the character prior to his adoption of Vi and Jinx. We should be seeing these characters struggling to get by under Piltover's harsh rule, something to justify the violence of Vander's introduction.
Tonight, a harebrained scheme these two bozos cooked up to turn a dank crack in the earth into a thriving, healthy community became a reality.
I was angry, just like you. I led us across this bridge, thinking things could change.
Right.
This opening scene is quite literally the pinnacle of a character arc. So if we see Vander before this moment, it should be a more brutal version of the character. But here, all we see is a cheerful and chill dude. He doesn't seem angry, or bitter, or revolutionary. I mean, this guy led people into battle. He was probably the one that started the war between Piltover and Zaun. And is someone that would try to drown his best friend if he had to. The Vander we saw in Season 1 is not a happy person. It is only because of Vi and Jinx does he change his perspective. So this flashback already chips away at this character development. So let's look at this trio's relationship on a logical level now, and see how it fits into the story. So this scene establishes that Vi's mother is not only very close with Vander, but was also good friends with Silco as well. Now inserting this friendship isn't implausible with Vander. He seems to at least know who Vi's parents were on the bridge in that opening scene. But this is the only hint to them actually knowing each other. Vander never talks about Vi's mother in Season 1, and there is no suggestion that they were close friends. Neither Vander or Silco mention her to each other when they're having this big talk about their relationship and their past conflict.
I'm sorry. When she died, I lost my head. I told myself what I did to you was for the greater good, that you deserved it. But the dirt was on both our hands.
Okay, so why doesn't Vander bring her up here? Why doesn't he explain any of this?
Until you made peace with them. Played lapdog after everything we suffered.
I had no choice.
On the topic of Silco, it's pretty clear that he had no idea who Vi and Jinx were before meeting them.
I've regretted that we've never had the opportunity to speak. Hello, little girl. Where's your sister?
Having it so that Silco not only knew their mother, but was also good friends with her, completely destroys these relationships. Surely Silco would have met both Vi and Jinx as children, as it wasn't until after the battle on the bridge that he and Vander's relationship broke down. Wouldn't he remember his best friend's daughters, that specifically had pink and blue hair? I mean, he literally pulls out a knife to kill Powder here. Wouldn't this be the time to say, hey, I was really good friends with your mom, so I don't want to kill either of you. How about you join me and we can rule the Undercity together? Or some shit like that. And even if he does recognize them and simply doesn't care, which none of the dialogue suggests, then what is the show saying about Silco? That he is willing to murder his best friend's children for no reason?
I put you on the hook. You two are gonna figure this Zahn thing out. I don't care if you have to carve it out of the bedrock covered in blisters.
It's not like Vi's mother ever did anything to Silco, and on the whole, he seems like a guy who likes to protect his friends. So it seems unlikely that he would betray her in such a way. Why wouldn't Silco or Vander mention to Jinx and Vi that they both knew their mother? Why did Silco chastise Vander for taking in these children if he had made a similar promise to their mother?
What's the point if we can't raise an ankle biter or two?
To Zahn, then.
It's clear that this was inserted into the story after Season 1 was already created. But by adding this layer to these characters and their backstory, the writers turned a complex and morally gray antagonist into a shallow and black and white villain. It also makes Vander a more one-dimensional character. His backstory of being a rebel and a warrior turned pacifist and father was interesting and deep, but it's stripped away by this scene because we see that he was always a laid-back bartender who already promised to take care of Vi and Jinx. It was already a predetermined decision rather than a grand revelation. It's clear again that these writers want to prey on the audience by inserting a sappy scene that on the surface seems to deepen these characters and their relationships, but in actuality only serves to tarnish who they were in Season 1. Number 14, Missed Opportunities. It looks like other people are starting to wake up to the putrid smell of what is Arcane Season 2. Because a lot of the fans are pointing out that many of their favorite characters never had a single interaction during the entire season. For example, we never see Revit get confronted by Vi or Jinx for torturing Vander, while being in the same location on 2 separate occasions. Jace and Vi don't speak to each other despite having multiple scenes together, as well as having an interesting relationship set up in Season 1. Both Mel and Caitlyn would likely have a lot to talk about since Caitlyn became a surrogate daughter for Mbessa this season. Yet they never interact with each other. I mean, they quite literally work together to defeat this woman, yet they never got a scene talking about their experiences with Mbessa before this.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
Mel and Jace were one of the 2 most important romances in Season 1, and while both were kidnapped, neither one of them thinks about or talks about the other. I mean, I guess Jace has this one quick flash of Mel by the fire, but it's hardly a nod to their actual romance. These 2 characters go from being in love, then are taken out of the main story, and when they reunite, it's awful and clunky. The dialogue doesn't match what's going on, and it makes the entire thing feel pointless and annoying.
Why not save all of them?
It wasn't a decision. One moment you're addressing the council and the next we're standing in rubble. I didn't have any greater awareness.
How can I know you aren't lying to me?
You know, this is causing me serious psychological harm. I don't know. Who am I?
These lack of interactions create a large gap in the cohesion and emotional impact of the story. It doesn't feel real or gripping when characters like Vi and Echo never interact past sharing the same hoverboard. We saw it in Season 1 that they were like family to each other, so not having a proper send-off for their relationship makes their whole story feel rushed and disregarded. Why get the audience invested in this relationship if the writers themselves can't bother to remember to even give them a scene where they properly reconnect with each other? What this ends up being is a simple waste of time for the audience because we are again given these setups in a story that have zero payoff by the end. Number 15, the writers. So after doing some research and a lot of help from my subscribers, I have discovered some pretty good evidence as to why the writing sucks in Season 2. And here I want to give a shout out to Lax786. He did a great breakdown of the writer's room for Arcane, and essentially gave me all the juicy info that was backed up with my own research. So quite a few of the key writers from Season 1 did not return for Season 2. Names like David Doon, Ash Brannon, Ben St. John, and Molly St. John may seem unfamiliar to you, but these people were responsible for writing key episodes in the first season. Such episodes as Progress Day and Oil and Water. You know, episodes known for their strong character development and well-paced storytelling. Connor Sheehy was also the story writer for the entire 9-episode run of the first season. However, he also did not return for Season 2. Now, none of this has been confirmed, and it can only be speculated at this point, but it's pretty obvious that without these writers, as well as Connor Sheehy leading the team, that production relied more heavily on Amanda Overton, Christian Linke, and Alex Yee, with Amanda of course being the lead writer for Season 2. Now, Amanda did play a large role in the writing of Season 1, however, it's not hard to guess that these other creatives reined in some of her horrible ideas. Now, I couldn't find much information on these writers, their IMDb pages are pretty blank, and there weren't any interviews I could find of them. However, Amanda on the other hand has been getting a lot of press lately. And when you listen to what she has to say, you get a pretty good idea of what's going on behind the scenes.
Is there a particular character that you connected with most?
It was Caitlyn.
In a recent interview, she discussed the multiverse aspect of the story, saying, quote, "We've seen a lot of alternate universes now, and how string theory has percolated, with the Marvel Infinite Universe television shows doing that. We said, let's take that and do our own version. Because everyone's so familiar with this right now, we don't have to spend much time explaining the multiverse. People will just instantly get multiverse, which means we can lean into what the potential of this relationship could be."
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I don't know about you, but I think if you're taking notes from Disney Marvel, you're going in the wrong direction with your shitty TV show. After watching Disney completely crucify themselves on the idea of multiverses, you'd think that it's an idea best to be avoided. Usually when you see something go horribly wrong, it's best to do a course correction instead of repeating the same mistakes. Kind of like how they started putting locks on the cockpit doors of airplanes after that thing happened in the early 2000s.
Reminds me of that tragedy. Oh, 9/11. Yeah, don't laugh at 9/11 again.
Now, while multiverses wasn't the only reason for Marvel's downfall, it sure didn't help.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
It's really just been an overplayed concept that general audiences are really getting tired of. With every superhero franchise jumping on board to milk every cent possible out of these IPs by shoving every reference and cameo they can into these films and TV shows. So it's pretty obvious why Amanda thought it would be a good idea for Arcane to do its own version of the multiverse. It's far easier to shove the shipping and fan-baiting scenes into the narrative when you don't even need a reason for it. We all love Silco and Vander, right? So let's have a universe where they became best friends again. We also love Jinx and Echo, so give them a cheesy romance together. That's what everyone apparently wants to see after all. A multiverse plotline stops the need to have these events happen naturally in the narrative, because you can just send characters to a timeline where those events already happened. Why spend time working on characters and earning payoffs when you can just generate them at any time you want?
The thing is, Bob, it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care.
Arcane is not a Marvel franchise, yet the multiverse isn't the only thing that the writers seem to have imitated here. The entire finale is pretty much pulled right out of the Kevin Feige handbook. World-ending stakes, a villain who thinks that killing large amounts of people or ending the world is morally justified for some reason, huge armies of mindless drones that are controlled by the main villain, a sky beam, or in this case a large tower that stands above the battleground, which the heroes need to get to. The heroes need to use some time travel to stop the villain from achieving their goal. Creating scenes where any LGBT content can be cut or edited out so they can be sold to a Chinese market. It is clear that most of Arcane's writing talent went out the door with most of the writing staff after Season 1. And so we're left with this.
So I think we were always trying to tell a story that felt like it was coming from the characters, like they were making decisions people would make.
Meanwhile...
Now, of course, not all of the blame can be put on poor Amanda here. Christian Linke and Alex Yee are equally responsible for this catastrophe. And from the interviews I have seen of Christian, he seems about as tired and worn out from talking about Arcane as I am.
I think it comes down to telling great story and having great characters, and we really try to do that. Whether or not we succeed, that's our audience is going to tell us, but in an unmerciful fashion.
You're goddamn right.
And there's also the case of Netflix itself, as it's recently been revealed that executives have been pushing writers to make more simple and easy to follow plotlines, so viewers can have a show on in the background and still know what's going on. God, I hate what Vine and TikTok have done to our attention spans. Now, did this affect Arcane's writing staff in any way? The truth is, I don't know, but it's still worth pointing out that the provider of this show is conspiring to make television the equivalent to white noise. Just so some soccer moms can have a show on in the background like The Irish Wish, while they make their mac and cheese for the whole family.
What the fuck is this world? What have they done to us? What did they do to us?
So in the end, you have a lead writer that knows so little about what she's doing that she thinks copying Marvel is a good idea. You have showrunners who seem tired and worn out by their own creation. And to top it all off, you have a streaming platform that couldn't give a shit whether you made something of quality or not, so long as they have a gullible audience to feed it to. Number 16. Everything else. So I have gone over a lot of things in this review, and I would like to think that I've been pretty thorough. However, I was bound to miss a few things along the way while trekking up this mountain of sloppy writing. So let's go through a list of things that I didn't have time to add previously. Number 1. How did Jace manage to make it past all of these main characters without anyone seeing him? When Jace goes to assassinate Victor at his compound, he somehow sneaks past an entire army camp, as well as through a whole village without being seen by anyone that would easily recognize him. Caitlyn, Vi, and Mbessa are all pretty much in one location, yet he conveniently never crosses paths with any of them. Number 2. Why did Mbessa not arrest Mel? After discovering her secret powers and truth about her brother, Mel goes to Mbessa's camp to confront her. They have a little spat, and Mel pretty much tells Mbessa that she won't join her and will fight to defend Piltover. Then it just cuts away from the scene. The next time they see each other is during this final battle. So why would Mbessa, of all people, let her own daughter leave this heavily guarded base? Mbessa keeps talking about how important her family is to her, so allowing her daughter to fight in a world-ending battle seems pretty risky. I mean, there's a good chance that she could die, right? Mel is both Mbessa's heir and is supposedly a superweapon against the Black Rose. Losing her to Piltover doesn't seem like something Mbessa would allow. I mean, she could just have her entire army surround Mel and capture her, right? I know Mel is super magical and all, but she couldn't even take Mbessa on her own, so subduing her couldn't be that difficult. Like, what happens after this cutaway? Did Mel just walk out of the camp? Did she escape? Did Mbessa permit her to leave? Number 3. If Mbessa was so concerned about getting Hex-Tech weapons, then why did she plan an attack on Jace?
How could I not secure the scientists?
I don't know what is going on, but somewhere our wires got crossed.
I mean, it's really lucky that he wasn't sawed to death by this Chem Baron. And at no point does Mbessa directly jump in to save him. She puts Jace's life in jeopardy, yet he is the only one that can create these weapons for her. Killing him goes against your very goals, and it's only by chance that it doesn't happen, you knuckle-dragging cave woman. Number 4. Why didn't Revok use his own blood again to summon Vander like he did the first time? After he is freed from Stillwater and is hired by Mbessa, Revok's one job is to recapture Vander. So he comes up with this weird device that somehow tracks Vander to Victor's compound. Yet, all he has to do is draw a single drop of his blood, and Vander will come running back. As we see later on in the show, Victor's magic has worked on Vander somewhat, and he seems to have some kind of resistance to the blood. But this only happens way after Revok is freed from the prison. Why didn't Revok just cut his hand open immediately after Mbessa let him go? They could have set a trap for him in the prison or something. Why didn't they do that? Oh, right, I forgot, sorry.
Me tar, you tar, retard nation! Me tar, you tar, retard nation!
Number 5. Why does Vi initiate this intimate moment with Caitlyn after Jinx has suggested that she might kill herself?
You don't have to worry about me anymore. You don't need to feel guilty about being happy. There's no good version of me.
What are you gonna do?
Break the cycle.
I don't fucking care.
Seems like at this point, Vi's the kind of character that would do anything to help or save Jinx, so it's pretty strange that she'd be wasting her time here, getting it on with an evil dictator, while ignoring the possible death of her sister. Number 6. I mean, I've covered this before, but why not pick on this mute child one more time, right? So after Vander goes on a rampage, he attacks everyone in the area. However, this is only Noxian soldiers, who are enemies of Jinx, Vi, and Caitlyn as well as pretty much every hero in the story. All of Victor's followers are dead, so there's no innocent people left in the area, so when Isha kills Vander, she's only helping the Noxians. Had Isha just gone with Jinx and Vi, then Mbessa would have been left to fight Vander on her own with her men, and likely would have been killed there. So really, Isha only really helped to create further conflict by helping the Noxians deal with Vander, who they then turn into a new super weapon for Victor's army, which later leads to Jinx's supposed death at the end of the season. So in killing Vander, Isha only really manages to make everyone's lives worse, and helps to almost end the world. Number 7. The dialogue is so bad in this season that at points you could assume that it was written by George Lucas.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
A lot of the time it feels like the writers were trying to come up with some edgy take or interesting philosophical quip, but they fall as flat as a 180-degree angle.
The beast is more savage than man.
Ooh, wow, so deep.
Taking a leap forward means leaving a few things behind.
Yes. This is so relevant to Echo's journey as a character.
How long were you sidled up with that shifty, self-serving war pig? She oinked poison in your ear and you just ate it.
What are you saying? What? What are you talking about? What? What?
Seriously, there are hundreds of people that read this script and put millions of dollars into creating this show, and this is what they decided to go with?
Oh, right, yeah, of course.
So many scenes have characters that seem to be talking past each other, instead of reacting appropriately to what's going on around them. So much so that it feels like this is a rough draft of the actual script.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm one of you? A mage?
A wizard, and a thumping good one, I'd wager.
Did anyone stop to ask themselves what the fuck this means?
She oinked poison in your ear and you just ate it.
What you're saying to me makes me want to fight you a little.
Keep your pig analogies to yourself, you swine. Now, a lot of you who don't like my opinions will often say that I'm nitpicking. And yes, I will admit this is true. I like going into the little details and ripping them apart, and sure, not all of my points are going to sink the boat, but it's worth pointing out that if you find enough holes in a story, then it becomes a big enough problem that does sink the boat. Sure, 1 or 2 problems is okay and can be forgiven, but if some asshole like me can sit here for 2 hours and talk about all the fuck-ups you made, then that's a bigger issue. Number 17. It's all ogre now. Well, we are finally here. At the end of the day, I think what bothered me the most about all of this is the lack of respect for the characters and the world of Arcane. It just felt like the creators of the season really didn't try to understand who they were writing about. They wanted to prioritize easy emotional beats instead of creating in-depth character studies. They wanted more montages and sappy writing, and they wanted to fanbait. But what this ended up becoming was a false representation of what Arcane had been in Season 1. Jinx, Vi, Caitlyn, Jace, Mel, and Victor were completely different people in Season 2, and were far less memorable. The creators forgot that Arcane was about these characters and the city they lived in. It wasn't about this.
It is how we clothe and forgive the baser instincts that spur us to division, death, war, prejudice.
It was about this. And it's really telling that you can have arguably the best animations in television history. You can have all the money in the world to fund the show you're making, but none of it will make up for your horrible story. Now, I could sit here and go over every moment of Arcane Season 2 and break it down on a molecular level, going over all the minutiae of its horrible storytelling until the end of time. I could probably go deeper into the dialogue, the failed character moments, the pointless setups, and so on, but after a while, we have to call it quits at some point, right? I mean, this is a one-man channel after all, and if Arcane was a horse, I would have beaten it not only to death, but well into whatever afterlife it was deserving of, which is certainly hell. And, let's be honest, I think we have all given this hunk of crap of a TV series a lot more time than it deserves.
You suck!
I feel like I accomplished what I set out to do with this series, which was to prove that all this empty praise for Arcane is wrong. So don't let people try to convince you that this show is good. It's not. Any 14-year-old kid writing League of Legends fanfiction could probably generate a more honest portrayal of these characters and where they're from. So don't settle for this show, it's fucking weak. And I really must say thank you to all of you, especially my subscribers. You guys have been fantastic and super supportive through this whole series. Honestly, without all of you supporting the channel, I don't think I would have made it this far. And I know that this series has come to a close for now, but it doesn't mean that we're finished yet. There's still plenty of things to review and discuss out there. Arcane is something I'd like to return to at some point, but right now, I'd like a little break from the absolute agony this season has put me through. So if there's a show or a movie you'd like me to review, then feel free to let me know down in the comments section because I have no idea what I'm going to be covering next. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, that would be great. So if you like my content and you want to see more of it, then just hit that button. And for all of you out there saying that I lack media literacy or some other meaningless platitude, and you've made it this far, let me be clear. Arcane will fall into the same category as The Last Jedi. First people will praise it, then the fanbase will become divided, until it's finally realized how awful this show truly is. In a short time, the majority of the fanbase will be saying the same arguments that I've been making this entire series, if they haven't started already. So, enjoy the window licking while you can, because I've brought my squeegee.
Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets, cause we know where we at, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here, ain't stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future, but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. Promise that that's not a promise, yeah, that is a threat. You know that I promise to bring the team commas. When the whole team win, that's when you flex. Win. And I'm a
9/11.